During the days leading up to the 2012 election, many polls were conducted to predict the winner of the presidential race for Virginia, Obama or Mitt Romney. It would be practically impossible to ask all registered Virginia voters. There were 5,216,252 registered voters in Virginia in 2012. If it was possible to collect information from all of the registered Virginia voters, then the results would be called a census. So instead, we can take a sample and make a conclusion about the entire group of registered voters. A population is the entire group of individuals about which we want information. Usually it's not practical to take information from the entire population, so what we do is we take a sample. A sample is the part of the population from which we actually collect information. We use this information from a sample to draw conclusions about the entire population. In this example, our population are all registered Virginia voters, but since it's not practical to get information from all of them, we will take some sort of subgroup or smaller group of the population, and we call that a sample. We are doing a sample survey, a study that uses an organized plan to choose a sample that represents some specific population. So choosing a sample that is representative of all Virginia registered voters is not so easy. Here are some bad sampling methods, ones that you would want to avoid. One of these polls was conducted by the radio station 101.1 FM. They asked listeners to text into the radio station the person they were going to vote for. Results were as follows. 45% said Obama, 42% said they would vote for Romney, and then 13% said they would vote for Bryce Harper. We call this a voluntary response sample. Keyword here is voluntary response. People are volunteering to respond. This is allowing people to select themselves a sample rather than you. Usually those who select themselves feel most strongly about the issue being polled. Other examples would be choosing volunteers to receive candy. Again, keyword is volunteering. And those call-in opinion polls that you see in American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, and America's Got Talent, those are all examples of voluntary response sample. So why is this a bad sample? The sample is bad because it has bias. Bias is when the design of a statistical study systematically favors certain outcomes. So why is a voluntary response sample bad? Well, because only people interested are going to text in. Multiple votes by the same person does not make a valid sample. And it's not really representative of the entire population of Virginia voters. On the AP exam, you want to be careful. If you are asked to describe how the design of a study leads to bias, or how it leads to an under or over-representation, you're expected to identify the direction of the bias, so whether it's an overestimate or an underestimate, and the reasons behind your thinking. Our next example of a bad sampling method is as follows. A poll conducted by Gallup had people waiting outside of local supermarkets and surveying the first 50 people that leave the market. The results were 40% vote we're going to vote for Obama, 53% we're going to vote for Romney, and 7% were undecided. This is called a convenient sample. Keyword here is convenience or easy. The selection of whichever individuals are easiest to reach. The interviewer selects whom they want to respond. So this time, it's not the person selecting themselves, the interviewer selecting them. Other examples would be if I were in class and I wanted to sample table 1 only of students because they're the closest to me. And all those people that we see at the mall that are doing surveys, those are doing convenience sample. They're interviewing the ones that are shopping at the mall. So this is a bad sample because it's biased. It's biased because selected individuals may be better or worse or under or overrepresented. Again, not representative of the entire population. So here's a good sampling method. Every person registered to vote in Virginia was assigned a number, and 100 numbers were pulled out of a hat. These 100 people were called and surveyed. The results were as follows. This type of sampling is called a simple random sample, an SRS. The keyword here is that it is random. This selects a sample in a way that every individual has an equal chance to be chosen. Each individual selected is chosen the same way. Examples are, if I needed to assign a treatment to 2 people, I could flip a coin. Flipping a coin is fair. There's an equal chance of one person getting one treatment or the other person getting the treatment. I could also assign each student in the class a number from 1 to 6 and roll a die. Again, rolling a die, assuming that it's a fair die, will give everyone an equal chance of getting selected, 1 out of 6. So why is this a good sample? First, chance chooses a sample, so it's impersonal. Second, there's no favoritism by the sampler. And lastly, there's no self-selection by the respondents. This isn't biased because all the individuals have an equal chance to be chosen.